What up, y'all? Welcome to the Independent Living Podcast. This is where we talk to some of the dopest independent artists that are doing their thing, building this from the ground up. And today we got my guy, Blvck Svm. How you doing, man?
Good, man. How about you?
I'm doing good. So I'm normally a pretty mellow cat.
Yeah.
Blvck Svm. Do people know your name? Should I start all over?
Yeah. No, I mean people know.
They
It's
do?
it's in interviews and stuff, so people want to find it. They'll
Okay,
find
my bad. I thought I blew your cover,
it.
Superman.
It's all good.
Uh, my bad. So we got Blvck Svm here. I'm normally a mellow cat, so I'm gonna have to try to turn up in this interview because he's super mellow. But how you doing, man?
I've been good. I just been plugging away, working on some new music, working on just life stuff, get my body right, get
Indeed,
my mind right. So
indeed, getting your mind right, getting your body right. That's artists, man. Make sure you take care of your mind and body
mhm.
because it's a grind. It's a long grind. But for the folks that aren't familiar, can you give people a little background about yourself? Where you from? How long you been at this?
Yeah, I'm from South Florida. I grew up about 30 minutes north of Miami. Started rapping in high school, just like most kids do, like rapping at lunch over, the pen beats on the tables and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And did it as a hobby, have fun with it. And then I got to college a few years later and did my first open mic toward the end of my first year of college, and I realized it was something I wanted to do for real. So I've been trying to pursue this professionally for probably about 10 years now. And it wasn't until COVID hit and I lost my job that I really turned it up and started dropping music every other week, just as that last ditch effort to make something happen before I, left and moved home and worked at Amazon or Walmart or wherever was open, quit music, all that stuff, applied to grad schools. But I wanted to make music because I loved it. So I dropped every other week, and the first song kind of blew up, and then I figured it out from there. So now I do music full time.
So you fast forward over a lot of stuff. We got to go back, man, because you said you just kind of went to college. You went to University of Chicago.
Yeah,
Like University of Chicago, that's not a, that's not a easy school to get into. That's kind of like an Ivy League of the Midwest. Like
yeah,
people got to know this part because I've been to a lot of. I mean, I went to school, so I think it's important for people to know. I don't know what role it played in your growth or in your art, but how did you even get to University of Chicago to begin with? You must have had great grades and
I was okay in school. Like I think I was smarter than my grades let on, but I just wasn't really good at school. Like I wasn't super focused like that. But
mm,
I had a lot of stuff going on outside of school. Like I had a job. I played on the basketball team. I had a lot of extracurricular type stuff, and I was really good at the standardized testing. So ACT, SAT, I was killing all that, and I was doing tutoring with that kind of stuff. So my junior year English teacher told me about this scholarship program called QuestBridge, which is for first generation and low income families. And at the time, my family was going through it financially.
mm-hmm.
So I applied to that program. They basically give you a full scholarship to any of these 50 partner schools. So you rank the schools 1 through 8 out of the 8 that you choose, and whichever one you get matched with that's the highest on your list, that's the one that you're like contractually obligated to go to. So U Chicago was the one that I matched with, so that's how I ended up going from Florida to Chicago.
That's super dope. That must have been a kind of a shot. Florida and Chicago, very different. How did
Yeah.
you? Once you got there? What was the experience like? Did you love it? Hate it? Take a while to get adjusted? What was the deal?
It was cool being somewhere that was like walkable. The Hyde
Mm-hmm.
Park is a real walkable city town. I guess it's not a city, but it's small, and it was cool being in a place where I didn't need a car to get around. Uh, it was difficult because it's really cold in Chicago, and I wasn't used to that. I lived in New Jersey for a few years when I was a jit, but that was like I was 3, 4, 5 years old. So most of my life I spent in Florida, and coming to Chicago and like walking to my math class at 8:30 in the morning because I thought it'd be a good idea to take those early morning classes, and just like walking through the quad and getting hit with that gust of wind that's so cold that you get brain freeze. Like there was multiple times where I just turned my ass around and walked back to my dorm. I was like, this not even worth it. Like I'm already ass at math. This class not going to help. Um, it was difficult mostly because of the cold, but I also didn't know how to dress for the cold because I'm coming from Florida. I'm thinking like I got this
Mhm.
little thin little ski jacket. Like this is what people wear. Like no, people wear Canada Goose and Montclair and all this stuff. Like that's how you stay warm. Once I figured that out, once I had the means to get better winter stuff, it got easier. But first few years it was rough getting adjusted to it being cold 8 months out of the year.
Yeah, no, I'm only laughing so much because I had a similar experience because I lived in Chicago for about a year
Yeah.
and a half, and I'm a Cali cat, so never really owned like a real jacket.
Yeah.
Didn't know how to layer properly.
At all.
Didn't know any of that. So I had a similar experience when I moved to Chicago. So it's just kind of funny. How what if any did your experience at University of Chicago play into your development as an artist?
One of the most important things that I took from being at U Chicago is learning how to be comfortable with not being the smartest person in the room. And that was true of me in high school too. Like I was in all those, the advanced AP type classes, and I was never the smartest guy in there. And I think I could see the difficulty that a lot of my peers were having adjusting to the fact that they weren't that in college. Like I was in class with this girl who first midterm in my calc class, like everybody's getting C's and D's and F's, and this girl got an 89 and had a breakdown and left the class. Like the best grade in the class. Like she's never even gotten a B before. And
Mm,
what I learned was that being surrounded by really smart people, you can kind of rail against it, or you can just take that time to learn, and
mm,
you can allow that iron to sharpen your iron. So I think it shaped me in terms of how I approach stuff that I don't really know and stuff that I want to learn more about, whether it's the creative aspect of music or the business aspect of music, just being open to knowing that I don't know shit or don't
mm.
know as much as I want to know. And that there's a path to get to that, but it's not being like stubborn about how much you do know. It's just being like, I guess, humble in that way. Like you don't know as much as you think you do. So figure it out.
Yeah. Nah, that's dope, man. Obviously, like I wouldn't force college on to anyone, but I do think that, aside from kind of what I learned in my classes, just my development as a young man during that time,
Yeah.
just being on my own, meeting different people, hearing different perspectives, like engaging in a different type of conversation allowed me to grow a certain way that I probably wouldn't have been able to do so like
Hmm.
outside of that environment at that age. So I always encourage, especially for people that don't know what they want to do, I think that college is still the best option in terms of opening up more doors for when you do find out what you really want to do. You
Yeah.
know, it probably opens up the most doors. So
Yeah.
were you working? So you obviously started rapping in high school. Like, what were you
Mhm.
doing in college from an artist perspective? Were you doing like shows? Did people know you rapped?
When I got into college, that was when I first started testing the waters. Like I did the open mic. Uh, it was the end. It was actually the end of my first quarter because we were in the quarter system. And after I did
Mm,
that open mic, like I was up on stage. I didn't know I had to memorize the lyrics. I had up like a piece of paper with me. My hands were shaking. It was all crumpled up, but it was cool because you get that one. I think in battle rap they call it a room shaker. Like you get that one line off, and everybody's like reacting to it. And I was like, oh, okay, this is what I want to do. After that, or around that time, I had a homie, still one of my close homies today, attrition. He took these classes at the art center, which had a basement studio type setup, and you have to take the class in order to get access to the center. So we would just go down there and we would record music, and we thought we were making like real music, like a stage mic, no pop filter, no real mix, no real master. But we were putting stuff up on SoundCloud like often. We had New Music Fridays and all kind of stuff like that. So that's where I really started recording, it wasn't official, but it's a step up from like me recording on my Android phone, which is what I was doing in high school.
Right.
So we just did that. We started performing at different events at school. We had the Black Student Union show at the end of the year. We all did that. I started performing at some of the frats. There was this thing at U Chicago called Bar Night, which is every Wednesday. One of the frats would host it, and I would go perform there. And I started really getting into performing and also just putting out music at a pretty regular pace. And it eventually overtook school. Like for a while, school was my thing, like academics were my thing. But
Hmm.
eventually, I realized I was better at rapping than school, and started. Did my first out of state show in Brooklyn at this place that I think is closed down now, but it's called Brooklyn Bazaar. That was maybe 2016. Shot like an official music video that same year, a few months later, and I was like, okay, I'm a rapper now. So how am I going to do this? And that was my approach for my last few years of college, a couple years of college.
Dope. Yeah, I think, especially in the beginning, people underestimate. There's very few people that can just jump on stage and be amazing like
Yeah.
right away, right? You want to get on stage, you feel like you want to be in front of this crowd, but it takes a while to kind of, you know, ditch the nerves and really kind of command the stage and like
Yeah.
have a presence. How many shows do you think it took for you to like really feel comfortable on stage?
I don't think I really started to feel comfortable on stage until this past year.
Mm.
And that's because I would compare my progression as a performer to when I was in college. I was doing a lot of like trap adjacent stuff, like the auto tune type of songs, like jump around music, right? So it's easy to get on stage and jump around and get people jumping around. Everybody's drunk, everybody's trying to
Right.
move, right? I would
Right.
compare that to being like a 7 footer on the basketball court. Like it's not much more you have to figure out in order to be effective on the court. You're bigger than
Right.
everybody. You already have that advantage. The music I make now is more like sitting on a stool in front of everybody. Everything's real quiet, and you're not moving people in a physical way, but you're trying to make sure every line is executed perfectly, trying to make eye contact. The things have been distilled down to like a very simple, low energy level. So how are you going to connect with people with that? Because it's much easier to do it when you're jumping around. Like it's easier to score when you're 7 feet tall, but if you're 6 feet tall, like what are you going to do to be effective? And now I feel like I'm starting to figure out how I need to interact with people in between songs and how I need to perform each song and explain different things about each song to make it engaging the whole way through, even though I'm not jumping around, I'm not sweating anymore, I'm not out of breath. I'm basically just talking to people rhythmically. How am I going to keep you engaged for a 30-minute, 45-minute set? So
Yeah.
I wasn't comfortable doing that for a while, which is why I would only pick my more up tempo songs to perform. But sometime around maybe late last year or early this year, I just was thinking like, I these songs are good to perform. I just have to figure out how to do this. Like people
Hmm.
are going to like the music because they listen to the music, but how am I going to turn it into a compelling performance? And once I started directly confronting that instead of just kind of hiding behind Bleach and Hyogo and some of my bigger, more up tempo songs, that's when I started to figure it out piece by piece. And now I feel like I can get in front of a crowd and move a room and captivate a room by rapping very plainly because I know what else I need to do in order to keep people focused.
That's dope, man. That's definitely maturing as a performer because I've seen a lot of acts. They really rely on the put your hands in the air.
Yeah.
You can only ask the audience to put your hands in the air so many times. Like,
I got a lot of thoughts about that, man. I'd be telling people in my shows like I'm not gonna tell y'all what to do because I don't like being told what to do when I'm in the crowd. Like I don't like when people are telling me that I gotta do this and I gotta put my hands up and I gotta take my phone out and I gotta respond like I didn't pay for that experience. I got paid to hear the music. So like I'd be telling people do whatever you want to do, like just enjoy it, like just have this moment with me
yeah,
because they're not here to get bossed around by me. I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody who does that. There's like different types of performance. It's like,
Hmm.
and I'm not that type of. I don't command attention in that type of way. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I've seen too many artists just kind of use that as a crutch. Like
Mhm.
they can tell that they don't have the audience, so they just start asking them to do hella stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. When did you notice that you had some traction online? Like when did your stream start moving? What was it that you were doing that you were like, oh, like I can do this, and this is becoming a real thing.
To be real, at first I wasn't doing anything. It happened. It just kind of happened. I dropped Bleach on March 19th, 2020, and by about April or May, I was really excited because it was about to hit 10,000 streams, and I had never hit that on a song before on Spotify. And I wake up expecting to see 10,000. I think I saw maybe 15,000 instead, which means that like it jumped up by another 5,000 in a day. That was half the number it had in the first month of its streaming. So I was like, okay, something's happening. Then it was another 5,000 the next day, then another, then another. I didn't know how to do anything at that point. I didn't even know that you were supposed to put up a song like 3 weeks or a month ahead of time. I uploaded Bleach the day before it dropped, like through DistroKid.
Mm.
So then it was a process of figuring out how to capitalize on what was happening with Bleach, not to recreate it necessarily in a sonic sense, but how to recreate that success. So, what do I need to do now? And then it was uh, getting a version of the song where it was the MP3 over the cover art and posting that on Instagram with the lyrics. And at that point, I thought what you were supposed to do as marketing was DM, like cold DM a thousand different people and be like, yo, check this out. Like, comment, share if you fuck with it, that type of thing. And it took me a minute to realize that that's not how it works. Like, you want
Mm.
people to come to the music organically, and they will do that organically. But if you're asking people to do it, then it's just going to be a chore. It's just like performing. Like, you want people to naturally be jumping around or putting their hands up or reacting lines. If you're asking them to do it, that's why they're doing it. It's not because they actually want to. But it took me a minute to figure out what I needed to do. Running ads on Instagram was the first step for me, and figuring out how to tweak those and tinker those so that I was getting pretty good return on the number of dollars I was putting in. So for Bleach, I ran an ad. I put in maybe $50, $5 a day for 10 days, and I got like 150 followers. And I had like 2,000 followers at the time, so that was a big chunk. So I'm thinking to myself, this is how it's going to work for every song. Put out the next song 2 weeks later, I got nothing. 2 weeks
Mm.
later, I got nothing. So I'm thinking, damn, Instagram is broken because these songs aren't like they're not doing as well. But then I have to take a step back and realize, like, no, people like this song. They didn't really like these two. They liked the fourth one I put out, Gristle. They didn't like the next few. So why am I going to waste money on these songs that people aren't fucking with as much when I could be putting all my money into Bleach and Gristle over and over and over again? So that's
Mm.
basically what I did. I just put money into Instagram ads and did it on repeat, and then learned how to sell features and then put all that money back into ads. And I did that for like 2 years. Like, I was just running ads on Instagram for those two videos specifically and funneling as much money as I could into those ads and selling features and building my followers. And eventually they started moving on the DSPs as well. So, or on Spotify specifically as well. So
Dope.
that was the process early on. Yeah.
And did you just teach yourself how to do the Instagram ads? And how has that your strategy or approach changed since you started using Instagram ads?
Yeah, I did teach myself how to do them. I learned how painstaking a process it is, especially if you are concerned about making sure the ratio of followers per dollar spent is high. Because what I found is that you can start an ad and the ad won't correct itself. Like, if it starts off slow, it's going to finish slow. So instead of
Mm.
letting an ad run for 3 days and I've spent $60, but I've gotten 20 followers off it or 30 followers, I need to delete the ad and then restart it. And I need to be tracking like every 30 minutes, every hour, every 2 hours, how many followers per dollar spent am I getting? What's the ratio? And if I'm getting a ratio of higher than 1 to 1, like higher than one follower per dollar spent, that's cool. I can keep it running. 2 is great. I've gotten as high as I think 2.7 for one that I was running a couple years ago, but I need to be checking that incessantly to make sure that I'm not losing money. Because if this ad isn't working, I need to delete and start over. I've done that as many as 10 times for one ad, like in a day. Just delete, start over. Now it's finally getting a 2-to-1 ratio at the 10th time that I just tried. So
What were you changing about the ad?
when I first started out, I wasn't changing anything. I had it set to automatic. So it was targeting people who were similar to my followers. And I would get followed by rappers and producers. And then as my follower base became more rapper producer heavy, then the automatic worked even better to target rappers and producers because that's like they were being followed by rappers and producers. So it was like a feedback loop. And over time, I started creating more specific ads where I would list out a bunch of rappers in the search category, or I would put in the demographics of the cities where I had my top 10, 15 listen cities. And I made it go from 18 to 65 to 18 to 34 in terms of age because I'm not really trying to target 65-year-olds with
Right.
my music ads. So now when I run ads, it's pretty similar. Like I'll check pretty regularly to make sure they're moving well. I'll try ads on a bunch of different posts that performed well organically when I initially post them, and I'll just keep tinkering with the demographics and the cities and all that stuff to make sure that I'm hitting the markets that I need to be hitting. And that's it's pretty similar to what I was doing before, but just a little bit more focused because I know what to look for now, and I didn't back then.
Right. So you were running these ads with the goal of increasing your follower count, but
Hmm.
your streams on Spotify are impressive. And I when I look at it, I feel like your streams kind of outpace your Instagram growth. Like
Yeah,
I looking to see how many streams you had, and you had what, like 40 million streams last year, something like that.
around that, yeah,
So
45.
you would think, yeah, don't let me discount you, 45. But you would think that somebody that got 45 million streams would have a higher follow. Just my assumption, if I was just to look at any random person that had 45 million streams in a year, my assumption would be that they had a lot more followers. Was there anything that you're doing specifically on Spotify? Was it just being consistent? Was the algorithm favoring you because of the quality of the music? Like, how did the Spotify growth happen?
I wish I knew for sure. My best guess is that I was releasing every other week, and even though every song wasn't great, like both to me or to the listeners, I was releasing enough good songs that they were being picked up. So Bleach got picked up by Discover Weekly, and Gristle got picked up by Discover Weekly, and a couple of my other songs started streaming very well too. I put out probably 25, 30 songs in 2020, somewhere around that, maybe
Hmm.
20 songs. And I want to say 3 or 4 of them got really good looks with the algorithms. And that's not a high percentage of the songs, but if I had put out 5 songs, none of them might have hit. So it was definitely a quantity thing, but there was quality within the quantity as well. Like I wasn't putting out bullshit, but I could recognize that there were certain songs that were better than others. One thing I'm learning too, because numbers are important. Like they're objectively important for presenting your case to whoever it is you're trying to do business with. But I'm learning that there's a big difference, both like qualitatively and quantitatively, to a big difference between passive listeners and active listeners. Because there are people who will just have your stuff on in the background. There's people who will get it on an algorithm and not really bother to check who it is. And there are also people who like will listen. They'll be like, "Oh shit, who is this?" Then they'll go follow you on Instagram. They'll follow you on Twitter, and they'll start interacting with your stuff. I came over from Spotify. I heard this on this playlist. I heard this on that playlist. And I think most artists have a lot more passive listeners than active. And I think that explains why I haven't been able to convert my Spotify listenership to Instagram followers, Twitter followers, because I have like 2,000 followers on Twitter. And I have around 20,000 followers on Instagram now. But a few months ago, I had almost 1.3 million monthly listeners.
Mm-hmm.
And that illustrates the challenge of turning those people from like casual listeners who will maybe hear this on an algorithmic playlist to a listener who is going to save all the songs, is going to follow you on the socials, is going to buy tickets when you're in the area, is going to buy merch when you drop it. Like that's unlocking that is what I'm trying to get to,
Yeah.
because I very much appreciate the followers I have, right? And the active listeners I have. But my goal is to convert those passive listeners to active ones. And if I can do that, like everything is smooth from that point on.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is definitely one of the challenges with these DSPs. It's tough to bring fans over to platforms that you can interact and engage with,
Mhm.
or that you can own, whether it's like emails or text marketing or
Yeah.
things like that. I noticed my guy Ollie Joseph does well on Spotify, and you know how you guys have like the video playing sometimes when the song's playing. Like
Hmm.
he hovered like his Instagram handle like in the video the whole time.
Yeah.
So you know you can kind of do stuff like that. Obviously, they allow you to put your Instagram in your Spotify profile, but that is one thing that I think that I hope Spotify works on, is just a way to like interact and engage with people on the platform.
That'd be.
Because you're right, I think you know a lot of these people would, and I think that you know Instagram, TikTok is still popping, but I definitely think there are people that just listen to Spotify these days and they're a little turned off of social media,
Hmm.
you know. So if there is an opportunity to interact and engage with people like on the platform, I think there's an opportunity. Even if Spotify figures out how to take a percentage of that, or makes money off that, I actually think that's fine if it allows artists to really interact and engage with people on the platform. I think it's
Yeah.
something that they can figure out.
And realistically, you get that whatever percentage is being pulled away, you get that back. You get that back via ticket sales or merch sales or whatever you're doing on your socials, because getting more people in front of not just the product itself, but the art behind it, like the person behind it, that's important too.
Yeah. So that sounds like that's one of your challenges going forward, is to figure out, you know, the passive listeners, how to convert them into active listeners. Or you can kind of look at it as like, you know, that's kind of like your introduction fan, but it's always the journey to figure out like, okay, how do you take these people that just found you on Spotify or just found you from an ad that you ran and is now a follower? How do you take this person on a journey to
Yeah.
becoming like a real fan of
Yeah.
a super fan of Blvck Svm? So that's one of the things that I think makes sense to be a top priority. What are some other top priorities for you this year that you really feel like you need to do to get to that next level?
Um, Getting connected with, I have enough, like in the past year, in the past year and a half, in the times where my music has been put in front of somebody important, right? Like whether it's a major player or somebody who runs this company and they do pub, maybe they do booking artists for shows. Like whenever it gets put in front of people, they like it. So figuring out like not just how to engage with listeners, like listeners who are regular people, but also getting the music in front of people who can help open doors for me. Because typically when they do hear my music, when people in these positions do hear it, like they want to help me out. And I think that is a testament to the music I make. Like I think it's good. I don't think it's the best music I'm ever going to make. I don't think I'm like a top 5 rapper in the world or anything, but I think it's good enough to show people that they should take a chance on me, whether it's booking shows or opening spots or sync stuff, whatever it is. So my goal is just to get into those rooms, or to get my music into those rooms, because I already know what happens when it gets into those rooms.
Yeah.
And just like staying focused on what I'm trying to accomplish musically. It's easy to get swept up in the business of it, because that is like this is my living now. It's no longer just a hobby. Like I'm making money. I'm paying my bills with this, and when that happens, it's no longer just about the passion. Like passion doesn't pay bills. It's streams, it's features, it's pub royalties, like that. Like it's material stuff. But alongside that is being pulled away from why I started doing this in the first place. So when I first started and I was broke, I was only focused on the creative aspect of it. I was only focused on putting good music out. And then business comes along and I start making money and I start making this my job, like my full-time job for the past 2 years. That 98% that I was putting in terms of like, or the 98% of my brain that was occupied by me trying to make better music. Now that's maybe like 80 or 70 or sometimes 60, because that other 20, 30, 40 is the business. How am I going to make this business work? How am I going
Yeah.
to get these opportunities? So I'm trying to fill in those gaps business wise so that I can go back to focusing 80, 90%, 95% of my brain on making good music and only making good music, because I think that while the quality of my music isn't suffering, I also know that I could be making much more focused music. My music is already very focused, but I could be doing even better in that regard if I had fewer things to worry about outside of the creative aspect. So that's what I'm trying to get back to.
Yeah. So I think that both like you converting passive listeners or people that were just introduced to you like into super fans, and having more of an impact on people that have influence, they can maybe open up some other doors for you. And this is just me from the outside looking in. We haven't known each other very long at all, but it really seems like even just my couple of conversations with you, like you're an interesting cat. There's layers there that I don't think people can see. Definitely like not right away, like when you go to Instagram, maybe when you dive into your catalog and you start hearing some of the things that you're talking about. But I
Yeah.
definitely think there's more of a story to be painted via social media that people can gravitate towards. You definitely have a lot. Is that something that you already knew or something that's already in the works? Just to be a bit more visible, a little bit louder, like about just who you are as a person.
It's it's tenuous because part of I think part of how I make music is that I make music that is lyricism focused. So
Mm-hmm.
what you see on the surface isn't necessarily what I'm saying, or maybe it is. Like it depends on the line, it depends on the song. I am trying to say things in ways they've never been said before, even if I am rapping about common rap tropes. But there's a deeper level to it than just lyricism, because I also have to square my political ideology with how I make music and how I move within a space that doesn't really align with the things I believe politically.
Mm.
So I I make it a point to post my views and things like that on my story as as regularly as I can without it seeming like preachy or contrived. That's one thing. But also, I don't think people really understand the relationship between the music I make and what I believe. And that is something that I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out how to present that, or if I should present that,
Mm.
because I don't want to give away, like, I don't want to crack the code for people. I want them to crack it themselves.
Mm.
There's a certain, there's a certain, you want people to understand how the sausage is made to a certain extent, but you don't want them to know the whole process. At least I don't. I think there is some level of mystique of caginess to not letting listeners know exactly what I'm thinking. And the value in that is that some of them will figure it out on their own. And it won't be a lot of people, but it'll be enough for like the people who understand like this random obscure sports bar that I make is those three people. Like that's enough for me. Like I don't need a whole world. I don't need to like make another Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry bar because everybody that's regular. Like everybody already gets that.
Right.
So it's difficult for me because I do want people to know more about like who I am and how that affects my music. I also just don't want to reveal too much because I think there is a value in having the work kind of stand by itself without explaining too much because there will be people who decode it. And I'm a big MF Doom guy. He's my favorite rapper of all time. And I think he did that, like, not just lyrically, but also just with his persona. Like, nobody really knows except the people who really know him.
Yeah.
And that level of mystique is difficult to capture now. Like, I can't just wear a mask everywhere. Like, of course, people know what my face looks like. But in terms of what he was rapping about, like, there's still contention now about like different lines and breaking them down. Like, what did he mean here? And it's like five different interpretations. Like, I like that.
Got
So
you.
I'm trying to accomplish that and also trying to figure out like how I can balance that with being more accessible in terms of my thoughts on social media. But it's a difficult balance to strike.
Got you. No, you articulated that very well, and it makes a lot of sense. So you are like a younger rapper of today that seems like you really appreciate rap. Like obviously, there's these a lot of old heads that will be like, the young folks don't really appreciate rap. They're not really rapping,
Yeah,
and there definitely is some truth to that. There's a lot of cats like yourself that are really rapping and that appreciate rap, but there definitely is some truth to it because there are some young cats that even run away from the title of being called a rapper. They'll be like,
yeah.
"I'm not a rapper." What's your perspective on that?
I'm a rapper, man. That's like I'm an artist, sure, but like I'm a rapper. Like I really love rapping. I don't shy away from it. I have no problem calling myself a rapper. When people ask me what I do, I don't say I'm a recording artist unless I'm like filling out like I don't know my insurance forms or something. But I'll say like when people ask me, I say I'm a rapper, and I like all types of rap. I don't just listen to lyrical stuff. I don't just like I don't want to
Yeah.
have a dictionary out and a thesaurus out every time I'm listening to a song. I listen to like I listen to a lot. I listen to a lot of trap shit. Like I probably mostly listen to trap shit. I've been like that since high school, but I have noticed that there are a lot of people who are just rapping to rap. Like there are a lot of people who are just doing it because it's a thing, and I have been kicking around this thought in my head for the past few weeks. But you can rap about ordinary things in extraordinary ways, or you can rap about extraordinary things in ordinary ways. Like there's an art to both of those, but
Hmm.
it's a hard sell if you're rapping about ordinary things in ordinary ways because like what unless you have the intangibles like charisma or a crazy ear for production or like something else that is making it engaging, like why would anybody want to listen to somebody rapping about regular stuff in a regular way? But that's a lot
Yeah.
of people, and people send me music all the time where they're like, man, I promise you I'm on my grind, I'm next up, all this stuff, and I'm listening to it, and you're just basically plugging shit into chat gpt. Like you just told it like make a rap song, and this is what it's synthesized from 50 years worth of data about people just saying stuff about stuff.
Yep.
If you're not going to do that in like a cool or interesting or intelligent or strategic way, then I'm not going to tell people like stop rapping. But like if you can't do that, then like nobody's really going to get to it. So I see both sides of it because I am a
Yeah.
rapper who is lyrical, and I really try not to like even I don't even like when the old heads who do feel that way about rap claim me or they're like, yeah, see this dude, he's really rapping. I don't even like that because like that's not what rap is. Like there's a lot of rap that is
Yeah.
cool, but I do see it. I see rappers just rapping to rap, and there are a lot of mainstream rappers who do it. There are rappers who are trying to be mainstream who do it. There are rappers who are independent who do it, and it's not fun to listen to. Like there's nothing that's really pulling me. So
Yeah. No, I hear it. And I think it just kind of the positive is it just kind of leaves the door open for older cats to continue to do it because
yeah,
there's a little bit of a void in the market and people still appreciate, kind of evidenced by, Killer Mike's win at the Grammys.
hmm
He's I think he's 48. But his
Hmm.
album I thought was amazing. Like as soon like I'm not a Killer Mike fan, but when I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, this is quality. Like this wasn't just made over the weekend. This took some time.
Yeah,
Um, so shout out to him for continuing to do it and put in enough work and to get the recognition of a sweep at the Grammys. So I thought that
yeah.
was pretty dope. Couple more questions, man, before we get out of here. Just want to get an understanding of like what your team looks like, because today, most artists have to do this by themselves, at least to a certain point, before you start to get people that can actually fill the role of whether it's an assistant or a manager or just somebody that's dedicated and will show up and do what they say, and to be a committed part of a team.
Yeah.
What does your team look like now?
So I got two managers, one who's more left brain creative stuff, video. He's also my videographer and photographer, pulls up with me to shows. I got another manager who's more of the right brain admin type stuff, clerical stuff, plugging in, playing for meetings and different opportunities. I got my homie who does my merch from start to finish, like orders the blanks, uh, gets the screens for the designs, gets the paint, like designs everything, packages, ships, which is a tall order, but he's amazing at it. I have my one of my managers is close with a few other photographers and videographers, so whenever it's a bigger production, like they'll all pull up. So those are my guys, my shooters too. And I got my engineer who, honestly, out of all, like I appreciate the work that all my team has done, but if I hadn't had the opportunity to start going to his crib when COVID hit and recording all my stuff at his place for free, we wouldn't be talking. I'd be in year 4 of a PhD program right now. Like rapping would have been done years ago. Um,
Which isn't a
and
bad place to be if you have that option.
yeah,
But shout out to the engineer, because a lot of times I've seen it time and time again. I'm not just speaking from my own experience. It's like people don't appreciate how valuable stuff like that is.
yeah,
Eventually when things start happening, more success comes, and it could be something that they decided to say themselves, or maybe somebody convinced them to say, but like, oh, all you did was record at his house. That's not that big of a deal, but how big of a deal that is, especially
man.
during.
I remember when I was first starting out, I would skip class to practice my rapping. Like before, when I was doing studio sessions downtown, like when I was in school, I would skip my classes to practice for 5, 6 hours. So I would know my raps so well that I wouldn't waste takes because I did not have the money to spend on like an extra hour or two. Like
Mhm.
I couldn't afford it. I legitimately couldn't. Started COVID, I couldn't afford it. And my homie, it's at his, like I would go to his crib and his family treated me like family because I was there basically every day for 2, 3 months just working, like trying to make it out. And that's a lot of time. Like that's a lot of hours. Or even if I were paying a really good rate at a studio, I would have been bankrupt. Like there would have been no opportunity for me to put that money in ads. Like none of that stuff would have worked. So he was like he was the first person to really see it in me. Like and not like my homies did, of course. Like my homies always have, but in terms of like functionally using space and time, like he saw that and he gave me his space and he gave me his time and he gave me his mixes and he gave me his advice and his expertise with certain stuff, and I would not have gotten here without him. So
That's dope. What's his name?
chill, CHXLL.
Chill. Shout out, chill, man.
That's
Like
my guy, man.
every there's no artist that gets anywhere at a decent level that does it all by themselves. Like
Yeah.
so, you need the team. It's crucial. So now this is your business. Can we talk a little bit about like how your business breaks down from a revenue percentage, like a
Yeah.
percentage basis? Like what's the top revenue stream for you?
When stuff started moving, it was definitely features mostly because I would run the ads, not just for followers, but so that I could sell features and be like, this is how many followers I have. this is how many monthly listeners I have. That's why I'm charging this much for a feature. So I would say at first it was like 70, probably 70, 30 features, everything else. Right
Mm.
now, it's definitely overwhelmingly streams. I right now I'm like 3.2 million a month on Spotify.
Okay.
And I mean, a few months ago, like before I moved over to Two Lost, like in Discovery Mood was like I was rocking, like I was close to 5 million a month in streams, like so I didn't really sell features anymore, like I didn't have to,
Mm.
and I went a while just kind of undercutting myself, like exploiting myself almost in terms of my prices because I needed to sell features. Like it's no longer about me thinking this is worth $1,500. Like I got groceries to buy. Like I got bills to pay. So I'll do this one
Right.
for 400, 500.
Yeah. So when you were doing features last, what was the feature price?
I would charge really anywhere around 2 racks for like a 16, which comes with promo, like posting on my story, my page, all that stuff. But I'm always down to do discounts, especially when the shit is fire. Like if it's that good, I'm gonna just do it for free. Like I don't care to charge somebody. But
I know all about the feature stuff. I've
yeah,
been in the middle of a lot of feature transactions. What percentage are fire that come to you?
like two. It's not often that I do a feature for free. Like I'll do features for free for the homies. Like I'm not gonna charge the homies. But
Right.
a random person hitting me, like it's been like maybe like 3 or 4 times where I've been like, oh shit, like I gotta get on this song. I gotta like try to get this dude some looks somewhere. It's not often. Most of the time, it's what I was describing earlier, where it's somebody who swears they're like the next coming of Pac, and
Yeah.
it's just
And,
like,
and we just talked about features, paying for features on another podcast.
yeah,
And I always just encourage people, man, like I don't want to hate on anybody's business, and if you get money from features, great. But like if you are paying for a feature, please make sure that you're on a similar skill level of the person that you're paying to do a feature.
yeah,
Because as soon as they hear the song, if they're your fans, they're gonna go straight to your verse and be like, "Oh man, that Blvck Svm verse was fire,"
yeah,
but that other cat, I don't know, they was trash.
yeah.
Like
Don't
and that
worry.
and that's wasted bread. Like you wasting bread
Exactly.
if you're not ready for the feature.
And on my end, like I have at this point, I have a reputation to uphold. When
Mm,
I was trying to make it, when I didn't have money coming in, I didn't have a job outside of music, and I was like getting unemployment checks and shit. I couldn't really care about like how like what this dude is rapping like. Like as long as it wasn't flagrantly bad or like egregiously offensive or something like that, I'm gonna get on the
yeah,
song because this $500, like I need that for rent. I need that for groceries. But now it's crazy because people will be offering me full price. Like people have offered me $2,500, $3,000 for a verse, and I'm listening to their music, and I can't do it. Like I can't in good conscience do it because one, it's gonna look bad on me, and two, I'm basically scamming this dude because they're like he's not gonna get this how many 750,000 streams to offset it. Like the song is not
yeah,
going to move that. So I'm not going to let people waste their money like that. Like
yeah,
as much as I would love to have that extra 3 racks, like that, it's just not like it's not ethical. Even it's
yeah.
like taking advantage of somebody, even though they're the one who's like putting it forward. Like it just
The
it don't work like that.
the exception to that, in my opinion, is just the person that isn't trying to recoup or get the 750,000. They just respect
Mhm.
you as an artist. They want the experience. They want to be able to say, "Hey, I got a Blvck Svm verse. This is my song," and it's something that they'll treasure for the rest of their life. Like if it's
Yeah,
not, then it's all good if that's what it is. But from a business perspective, it's typically, a bad business move.
Right. And
Um,
it's cool because people like it's people who don't even rap who bought features for me. Like full
mm,
price just because they want it. Like just because they want possession of this thing that nobody else has, and they can 5 years from now, because they think I'm gonna be somewhere big 5 years from now, they can say, I bought this verse. I have this verse, nobody else got it. That shit is really cool to me. But yeah, I try to let people know, like, if you want the verse, like if this is for the art, like that's cool. But if you're trying to like blow a song up, like it don't really work like that, especially if you're not on the level.
yeah, no, I respect it, man. Well, your fans think you got big things ahead of you. I know you believe that. I
Yeah.
believe it. You know, just talking to you, I was listening to the music as I was working out this morning. I I think there's definitely a lot of upside here, bro. I've seen a lot of people at this stage go a lot of different directions, but you have a really good head on your shoulders. Seems like you have a quality team behind you, talent. I see only upward trajectory for you. And if there's anything I could ever do to help, man, feel free to hit me. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave folks with? Any words of encouragement or anything that we missed that you wanted to make sure that you said?
I did miss mentioning Jake as part of my team. Shout out my
Oh,
dog.
Jake,
Yeah, that's
not
my
my
guy.
stay, Jake.
That's my man. Yeah,
For sure.
that's my guy too. But no, nothing else too important. You know, just trying to get to it, trying to get this album ready for everybody. So
Indeed. When can we expect it?
summer, either late summer or early fall. Just trying to get all the pieces in order, trying to get all the features ready, trying to get the concepts executed properly so that nothing is rushed, everything is as refined as I think it should be, and it's going to be good. Well, it's going to be my best work. So
Dope, man. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. Hopefully, people watching got a lot out of it. I think a lot of gems were dropped. And this has been another episode of the Independent Living Podcast. Catch y'all next time. Peace.